This week on Theme Park Workshop, the podcast.
We're back, and we're going to tell you where we've been.
It's been many places, and after all of that history, it's time to cover some news.
News with a very special guest.
And we'll talk about all the recent attractions that have died.
And the ones that have, like Evanescence before us, come back to life.
All that and more this week.
It's Bring Me to Life. Wow, I really botched that. We're going to stick with it, though, because this is Theme Park Workshop, the podcast. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Welcome, folks, to Theme Park Workshop, the podcast. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, it's a podcast.
Yeah, it is a podcast, and it is Theme Park Workshop after, what's it been, like a year and a half?
Yeah, it's been a really long time. But welcome back to the show, everybody.
Yes. I'm Adam Johnson.
And I'm Jonathan Edward.
And that's who we are.
So we've been on hiatus for over a year from official Theme Park Workshop business. As you know, our last venture onto YouTube was not even by us. It was by Balthazar Banshee, giving some hot take about Galaxy's Edge, which, you know, has aged really well until they finally opened up a standby line for Rise of the Resistance. And now that complaint is null and void. But thank you for tuning in to see what we're up to, because we're about to get into everything that has been happening in the past year and a half and why we have not made videos. So Adam, would you like to go ahead and start with your side of the story?
Yeah, I'll go ahead from there. And once again, what Jonathan was saying, thanks if you found this from the channel and you were watching our Galaxy's Edge videos. We've both been like really humbled, and we really enjoy the feedback that we've gotten from y'all, and that's really made us feel good. And we had every intention. We had every plan. We even had footage to keep on going after, was it June 2020?
August. It was August, yeah.
So yeah, we had every intention of doing another video that year and another video this year, many videos this year. But you know, with the mix of one, it's just, I think it's harder to do that now because you are in one city and I'm in another city.
It's true. We're in
not
different places.
Nearby cities.
Yeah, so it's like an hour and a half drive away. We used to be at the same college, and so we lived like 10 minutes away. And so if we wanted to do something, it was really easy to put it together. Now Adam has achieved the great American dream of graduating from college.
I'm glad we've lowered the standards of what is considered American dream into something much more attainable. Like all you need is a college degree.
Exactly.
But do you even anyway? Yeah. So I've got a job down where I am. I enjoy that job. It's a job that I like. I do writing for a profession, which that's a great thing. I'm using my degree, Ma. You know, Jonathan has other things going on in his life too. But again, I think we've both have always thought about Theme Park Workshop. We've written scripts for the next season of Theme Park Workshop, whenever that comes. And I think one day they will come. Hopefully they come.
Yes.
If they look different than what we intended or sound different than we intended, maybe some of them will pop up on this podcast. Because, you know, one thing with this podcast is this is kind of, I think, where we're going to try to focus things now. I think that's what we were talking about.
To kind of take from your point there, we talked a lot about how can we make Theme Park Workshop more feasible to produce, because the issue is it's a two-part production, and so Adam primarily does a lot of the writing and the behind the scenes, the planning, and he hosts a lot of the time. He helps shoot, and then I have to take it all into the edit. And if you've watched,
which is not easy.
No, editing is a much longer process. Not to diminish any of the work Adam does, because it's incredible, but editing, it does take an extensive amount of time, especially if you watch our videos and see the amount of green screen and visual effects and graphics. And I never want to sacrifice quality just to get a video out, especially when I have had Theme Park Workshop videos on my editing portfolio before. And it's one of those things where it's like, if I'm going to do it, I want to make it as good as it possibly can be. And And for me, I know one of the things that was a big contributor to why I couldn't edit Theme Park Workshop regularly is because I quit my job at the place where I was working to do YouTube full time on my other channel, which is called The Second Dimension. Little plug. No, but little did I know, self management is a very difficult task. And what used to be me just making videos for Theme Park Workshop and The Second Dimension whenever I felt like it quickly became, okay, videos now have to come out for The Second Dimension, and because they need to come out regularly, it I'm putting all of my energy each week into, okay, we need to get a video out this week, and that continues every week because that's my living now. And so when you make such a big commitment to a new video every week and make that your creative drive, it just becomes really difficult to do something as production intensive as Theme Park Workshop, even on a monthly basis, because it's just like, all right, I need to take like at least probably 4 days where I'm doing nothing else to edit Theme Park Workshop, because the episodes are just that, they lag my computer too, because we shoot in 4K and all sorts of stuff. They definitely help me grow as an editor, and I definitely want to continue in the future. But until I end up getting another job where my hours are restricted and I can't just tweak every last edit, or I have enough money where I'm making on YouTube where I can hire an editor so I can make the front end of my videos and then pass it off to them for a nice healthy chunk of change, and devote my editing time to Theme Park Workshop. But that's my side of the situation. Adam has done a great job. We have planned a lot of season 2 and written tons of scripts. It's just the front end of the system is working. The back end is just it's a learning process for me, trying to balance college, because I'm still in school too. I didn't mention that, but that's my end of the story.
And again, like, I don't know who listens to this. I don't know who will listen to this. Isn't that the great thing about doing a second episode a year and a half later? But I don't want it to sound like it's like, oh, well, Jonathan decided to do other things. Because if you like see, again, I don't want to like toot our own horn here, but like the work that you put into the workshop videos is, I love watching back, and you did creative and interesting things. And even though I've seen these videos, I probably have contributed to about a quarter of our views alone. I'm still like being reminded. I forget certain gags that you did just in the edit. We didn't write it. I know the writing because I sat with that. I failed to memorize it, and so I repeated it a lot of times. That's another thing. There's emotional damage that Jonathan has gone through because of my bloopers.
Well, I think that's another good point, is like a lot of the production stuff. Like if you look at our Star Wars stories video, I think that the Stories of Galaxy's Edge, I think that's one of the best videos that we've ever done from just an overall just production value standpoint. And I think one of the things that we have learned is that when we write these scripts, we don't need to film all these scripts. We need to block out areas of the script to shoot, because for the whole first season, we were recording the entire script, and then I wouldn't even use the speaking footage for part of it because I'd be wanting to do graphics. And so if we were to return to video, there are ways that we could make the production time shorter, not having 2 to 3 hours of footage for me to sift through for a 12-minute video. But I think we've improved and we've grown even just throughout the first few videos we've made. And so when it came time to figure out, all right, how do we want to revive this? I think I suggested a blog at one point. But we ultimately decided on podcast because we can also upload it to the YouTube page. And it can, like, we can still do Balthazar Banshee segments. Like he can potentially show up on the show.
And it's funny because I think when we went into the Balthazar Banshee segments, we were thinking to ourselves, those are going to be super easy. Those are going to be the easiest things, short 3-minute, bursts of joy. But the Galaxy's Edge video took 2 months, and I think it was like 5 minutes for 2 months. And that's not a knack at your editing ability at all. In fact, that's a testament to your editing ability, because 1, you stuck with it. 2, it looks great. 3, it's paced great. Like you did a lot of great work in that. But I remember, you just put it out, and we went to the theme park. We went to Universal with some friends of ours, and you're like, guys, did you see our latest video? And again, our friends are super supportive, and they're like, I thought it was going to be longer. And we're both like, yeah. I think you'll also understand too why we're doing podcast only for now, or podcast only and then a couple of videos every now and again. If you go and watch The Second Dimension, I want to plug my friend, of course, my friend and co-host and buddy pal. But I don't. So The Second Dimension, I know we've been saying the name, but you might not know what that is. So I'll do my pitch of it. The Second Dimension is Jonathan's YouTube channel where he features animated shows, the occasional anime. Do you do animated movies?
I'm open to it. I have a One Perfect Animated Scene, I think, for Monsters University in the works for some time down the line. But it's I don't usually talk about movies as much as I do shows.
And watching series and deciding, Jonathan said he has, and if you go on the channel, you'll see it. He has this recurring series called One Perfect Animated Scene, and I have not seen maybe 90% of these shows. It's just not the interest that I have right now with the time that I have. But like, he did a thing on the Jurassic World series on Netflix, which I would have totally ignored. He watched it and he thought it was masterful, and he talked about that. Hilda, also on Netflix, he made a video on that. He made me watch the episode in a friendly way, and I really enjoyed that. And then I watched his videos, and his videos on there are insightful. They're fun. It's really everything you love about Theme Park Workshop, but I mean, it's different, but it's really, really good. And so I'd really recommend that you give it a look if you like things like Phineas and Ferb and the Disney Channel and the Netflix animated shows. And Jonathan, I'm sure I'm missing one other thing.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. It's I'm not having to sell myself here.
That's my job. And of course, I've left out the best part until now. He's also doing something where he's giving his viewers a look behind the curtain and interviewing the creators of these shows. He started during the quarantine. Started doing that then, and my mind was blown as I'm watching him do these live conversations with these creators, and they really have some great and insightful chats for like an hour and a half. Even got Dan Povenmire, and did you meet Swampy?
I did meet Swampy on another podcast, but yeah.
These are the creators of Phineas and Ferb, y'all. That's some big level schnoz. So again, if you look over there, you'll know exactly why this is the best avenue for now, and this is gonna be a lot of fun. I think we're kind of somber right now. It's like, oh man, it's like the old era is ending. Game over, man. What are we gonna do now? No, this is actually a really exciting thing. Hope that you stick around and you see what the future holds and what we plan to do, because I'm excited for it, and I hope you're excited for it too.
I am as well. I think it's so good to be able to get back to talking about theme parks, because I haven't had an outlet to really discuss them since.
I mean, what do you got? Twitter?
I know, exactly. It's like I make a viral tweet. No viral tweets, but yeah. And as we enter this kind of new era, it's bringing you more of what people enjoyed about Theme Park Workshop, but we can actually give relevant commentary, because like Adam said, it took 2 months to put together the Banshee on Galaxy's Edge video. And part of what makes Banshee, I think, in my eyes, such a great flexible character is that, like, for us, I feel like Adam and I both know how to write for Adam and I are both good friends with Banshee.
Yes, we're friends with Banshee. Like those Disney people, they know so many princesses.
They do. And like, we kind of know how Banshee's going to respond to any given Twitter crisis within Twitter, within Universal, within Disney, and we would love to do episodes on this. But the reality is, making a green screened, puppeteered, re-recorded to match the lip sync show cannot get regularly produced to keep up with the news. So having Banshee on the podcast to talk about stuff, it's a good outlet.
Oh shoot, Jonathan, I didn't invite him.
Oh,
did you?
You didn't.
Doesn't he live with you? Isn't he on your shelf?
I think I threw him in the old washing machine a couple times.
Oh wait, is that his Balthazar bath?
No, that's his Balthazar bath is yet to be revealed. That was a canon scene.
Man, remember when we thought about canon?
True. Ah, what?
Schnikey.
Hello, imbeciles. You have silenced me for a full year, but I'm back. My name is Balthazar Banshee, and I'm here with your Balthazar Banshee theme park headlines, brought to you by me, Balthazar Banshee.
Wow. Well, hello, Balthazar Banshee. I'm glad you got the invite. You know that we definitely sent your way. You got it right.
Adam Johnson, I received no such invitation to your podcast. I was simply hiding underneath the bed, and I came to bring my excellent opinion to your stupid conversation.
Oh, well, you know, there's a lot to talk about. You know, I thought this was going to be a loose episode, but...
Absolutely! Let me get started with our top story. Pop out the champagne because Walt Disney World is 50 years old, and Adam, I know you don't drink, so you're not going to do that, but it's okay. It's clear that Disney World missed out on 2020. Because where is the vision? At Epcot, Harmonious provides the age-old adage that nostalgia for the movies featured at other parks can't make up for the complete desolation of aesthetic. But I shouldn't be surprised. If there's one thing Epcot has become known for in the era of Chapek, it is certainly not aesthetic. Flower gardens replaced with stone walls, Tron theming to Test Track because it tests well with 7-year-olds, and still the banner at the Imagination Institute. It's clear the only reason guests call this the most beautiful Disney park in Florida is because they overdid it at the Food and Wine Festival. To exacerbate the show's problems, the centerpiece failed to work on opening night, prompting immediate maintenance the morning after to work on its poor performance. Guests say, at least he's got a good personality. Stay tuned for more updates on the journey of water viewers. It's pretty sad. Meanwhile, Animal Kingdom's Kite Tales, the first ever daytime activation in the history of time, is going viral, becoming something of a meme. Some see it as disaster, others think it's become more classic than electromagic, full of the chaotic energy you only see in the movies, or a charismatic preacher telling middle-aged Pentecostals to get drunk on the spirit. My humble opinion? I'm just glad my fellow Banshees left the store wind traders before they got pulled into this ridiculous display. I'm known for not liking things, but I sincerely believe that Happily Ever After was a masterpiece that brought together the different themes and values of the Magic Kingdom into one beautiful thesis statement that moved my Banshee heart. Disney enchantment is not that. The new castle show is so underwhelming. A random Twitter user wrote a fake press release from Disney apologizing for the show and promising to do better. And the people who should know better believed it. And when I say people, I mean me, dear viewers. All the same, Disney Enchantment is as enchanted as Disney Plus. And I'll let you add that movie to your watch list till you get the joke. They say all good things must die, which is why Diz Twitter lives on. Once again, we are in the thick of boarding group discourse, debating on where to draw the line with the virtual line. Rise of the Resistance, a highly overrated technical marvel, finally dropped its virtual queue system and opens to wait times that finally have guests asking, I can binge this, but do I really want to? Hard no. Instead, Remy's Ratatouille adventure will be using boarding groups for the foreseeable future. What? Cries the suburban dad in the I paid too much for this vacation shirt at guest services. You mean I spent $1,200 for me and my Brady Bunch family to come here in a pandemic and there's still a chance I won't get on the 7-year-old rat ride? Indeed, says I. For in its single enhancement, Mickey Mouse has performed an act so cruel, it makes Anton Ego's reviews seem nice, forcing you to go to Epcot for Epcot. Disney weren't the only ones with a big couple of weeks, if you know what I mean. A Universal Orlando team member leaked an internal memo announcing the closure of Shrek 4D and Revenge of the Mummy in January 2022, prompting rabid rumors and speculation, while Revenge of the Mummy is only going down for extended maintenance. Shrek 4D will be closing for good. This is a historic move for Universal, because not only does it mark the end of an 18-year-old modern mainstay, it's the first ever theme park attraction available on a streaming service after it closes. In fact, rumors suggest the closure wasn't to modernize the park, but to lessen the presence of Netflix in the resort and boost numbers on Peacock, which does not have Shrek 4D. When reached for comment, Josh Tomorrow laughed. Rumors are fast and furious for the potential replacement, with Alicia Stella in Theme Park University reporting that while Hollywood's DreamWorks Theater and The Secret Life of Pets attractions were once potential candidates, the consensus appears to be another Despicable Me attraction. Described as a villain con showcase, The Orlando-based attraction is rumored to be a literal moving walkway with screens. All of a sudden, Kite's is a masterpiece. And finally, dear viewers, Muppets Haunted Mansion has dropped as a new corporate synergy package on Disney+. And my devoted, dwindling Twitter base has inundated me with requests to review it professionally. I have to assume it's because I'm also a puppet, and you'll always have to go through your puppet friends to okay your opinions on puppet things. But we'll have that conversation later. Mixing the affable zany of Gonzo the Great, the family playboy attitude of Pepe the King Prong, and the PG spooky classic post-Walt dark ride, it goes to show that while the Muppets are not the most wanted these days, that even now, with a little vision in space, and the heretofore untapped talent of Will Arnett, the mouse can take their most regretted acquisition and make a treasure, like this great Muppet caper. My personal reservations with the cult performance ensemble aside, Muppets Haunted Mansion gets my full recommendation and highest rating, which, as we Ekron say, my name is Balthazar Banshee, and these have been your Balthazar Banshee theme park headlines. Banshee out.
Wow, that was that was something.
I shouldn't have mentioned his name.
It's like Beetlejuice.
So let's debrief that news that Banshee talked about.
I think that's a great plan.
Yeah. So what's going on with Shrek 4D?
So Shrek 4D is going away forever, at least at the Studios Park. It's still going to be available at like 3 other places around the world, because this is not an exclusive Universal attraction, as it turns out, in case you don't spend your hours on Wikipedia like I. Yeah, Shrek is closing. And Jonathan, I have, my thoughts on Shrek 4D, and we'll get to those in a minute. But when you saw Shrek 4D is going away forever after, what'd you think?
I was just like, hey, we're getting new stuff at the studios. I will support any new attraction, especially one that's replacing something I can watch on Netflix. And I don't have the personal attachment to the Shrek franchise that I know a lot of people do. But I feel like there's not even as cult of a following for Shrek 4D as there are for like other Universal attractions. Like, it isn't even beloved for the show. A lot of people more just like it for the pre-show, which is really funny. Because it's like a really nicely themed pre-show, and then you go into the actual theater and it's just, oh, it's a theater.
It's funny. It's framed as a torture device, the main attraction. Like, even as a kid, I'm like, but this isn't torture.
This is exactly. And while an animation achievement for its time, if you read about it and all the work that went into creating that animation in 3D for that time was a lot, because if you know about 3D, that means you have to have 2 separate frames. And so with 3D animation, they would just have to render 2 separate cameras. And when you have things like moving water, that was a huge innovation back in 2003 to even be able to make Shrek 4D. So I appreciate the work that it contributed to the animation industry and the technological advancement. But that is not present in 2021, where I can go and watch the new My Hero Academia movie with more effects than Shrek 4D has at my local theater. And it's a feature-length movie. And the novelty, which I feel like is the most important thing for a theme park, isn't there.
Yeah. So when my family started going to Universal, back then, this was shortly after Back to the Future closed, because they had just started working on the Simpsons ride. So like everything was there except for Back to the Future. And because of that, there weren't terribly long waits. So I remember we would go on Jimmy Neutron's Nicktoon Blast, and we were just right off of that high of doing a simulated chicken dance. And we go over to Shrek 4D and we'd have fun over there. And my brother and my dad, they didn't do a whole lot of the extreme rides. That's why one of the reasons why we kept on going to Universal. There's thrill and everything, but there's a lot of simulators. And we go and do Shrek 4D, and we did a whole bunch. I can't remember the last time I've done Shrek 4D though. I can't remember the last time I watched it, and it was at home on Netflix. And the one thing that I will miss about the whole experience, I mean, the pre-show was fun, which you actually do not get on Netflix or DreamWorks Spooky Stories. If you're looking for the Blu-ray, you preservationist few, is the hydraulic sound. Like that is so iconic.
Cheers.
Actually, when we watched it as a family, just I think it was like some random Saturday, or we're all home for the summer. Maybe it was raining. I can't remember, but I'm just like, hey guys, I heard Shrek 4D is on Netflix. Let's watch it just for fun. And as soon as the onion carriage started moving, I got behind my brother and I started shaking his chair. And I apologize for earphone listeners right now, but I made and like it was like we were actually there. And yes, you miss out on the 4D effects, but I mean, it is I think the reason it feels strange that it's finally going is because it's been there for so long. It feels weird that it's been there for so long.
And it's in such a weird spot too. It's right at the front of the park. Like it's not like it's one of those things that greets you.
Yeah.
And whereas Despicable Me, I think works because it's the front of Gru's house. Shrek 4D is just like it's a decorated soundstage. There's just images from the movie inside on the side of the soundstage. And it really doesn't fit with what Universal's been doing. It's not exclusive in the same way that it was in 2003, both from an effect standards as well as, it's actually on Netflix. And I will not be mourning Shrek 4D because despite the rumored Minions movie replacement, I can't do a walkthrough shooting conveyor belt anywhere except Universal Studios. As questionable as it may be, it is an experience that I can only get by visiting a theme park. And I will take that over a lousy 4D theater any day of the week.
And listen, I like myself a good 3D show. I love T2 3D when the 3D still worked, because man, that 3D was not working in its latter years. I'm surprised I really let that go to waste. I've actually not seen the current state of Shrek. My brother and I, and maybe yourself, we're going to try to check it out before it goes away. Just, for one last hoorah. But, I love Mickey's Filler Magic. That's one of my favorite things in all of the Disney World Resort. But Shrek's just not that for me. Maybe not for a whole bunch, although it did have record wait times during the I guess we can say the pandemic phase of Universal's reopening. That
was weird.
And I mean, the reason it was so long is because they're spacing, but also Horror Nights uses the second theater as a house. And this year at Horror Nights 30, Case Files Unearthed, Legendary Truth, big lore house. It's also one of the best houses people are saying that's ever been in that space. So if that is and I agree with them, it's a great house. But if that's the last hoorah for Shrek 4D or the Shrek Theater for Horror Nights, man, they really went out on top. But yeah, I'm excited to see what comes next. I just hope if it is this moving walkway attraction, I think I prefer it to be Secret Life of Pets or the DreamWorks Theater. Just because one, it's with Kung Fu Panda or whatever the DreamWorks Theater would end up being, it's a new movie. And, from what videos I've seen of it or the way I've heard Robert Niles talk about it on Theme Park Insider, it does have some cool tricks up its sleeve towards the end. I think it's projection mapped, not like that's the way they do the projection. It's not actually a screen, it's just walls, and the projection map it, which is an interesting technology. Or, if it is Secret Life of Pets, I have no connection to that movie, but hey, a new dark ride, that could be cool. I don't know the spacing, I don't know how that works. But if it is this moving walkway thing, I do hope that it is good, that it is surprising. And I just hope it doesn't feel like a temporary replacement. Like we have the DreamWorks destination over yonder in Kids Zone that replaced Day in the Park with Barney. That feels slapped together, but it also can feel slapped together because the thing there before was Barney, which I guess I have no right to criticize because I never saw it. But, I just hope it doesn't feel like that.
So that's a nice transition to our Remember the Fallen segment. So this is where we will remember the other Fallen attractions in the time since, well, I guess not in the time since we've been around, because I feel like more attractions have fallen than the ones we have planned to talk about.
Around the world there have. These are the only ones that I remember to make note of.
So the first is A Day in the Park with Barney. I never saw it. Adam never saw it.
But I do feel guilt behind that. See,
would you like to tell that story?
I would, because this is my cross to bear. So the first time we were back at the parks in 2020, because Bourne had just opened, right? Do I have the timeline right?
Yeah.
So we had gone there. I'd gone there to see Bourne. Bourne is like a week old, if that. And We were there with some pals. This was also the day they made the announcement that select attractions were going to be closing temporarily or for the foreseeable future, which included Fast and Furious. It included a day in the park with Barney, King and Kodos. Really, these smaller attractions that didn't have the push. But that also meant their future was up in the air because among them were like Poseidon's Fury and Fast and Furious Supercharged, not necessarily the most popular attractions. And a friend of ours, Matt, he deserves to have his name spoken. He's like, guys, I've never done a day in the park with Barney, and this is the last showing. Can we do that? And I said, but Bourne. And so we watched Bourne. We missed out on Barney forever, as it turned out. So our friend Matt did not get his wish because of me. On the last day of its operation, we did not see Barney.
It's truly a tragedy. I'm glad you've aired the story. Your conscience is now cleared.
Yes. I wish I looked up the name of the host of that, but it had something to do with Aloysius Bartholomew. But you can call him or her Mr. or Mrs. Peekaboo. And I kind of regret that I never got to see the Peekaboo song live. Anywho,
I have no regrets.
It would have been too awkward for me if you and I had just gone. All the children, just us, watching that show. I'm glad we spared ourselves that in the end.
Yes.
Anyway, that's been remembered.
Next is Primeval Whirl, which I actually got to ride in one of its last few days of operation when it was still a seasonal attraction. It just opened for, I forget if it was after, like the whole pandemic has blurred time.
Yeah, it still feels like 2020 in a way, like 2020, 2021 are a single year in my mind.
Yeah, I think it's weird because you were talking about when Bourne opened, and I was like, I guess that was in August, but like the pandemic, I don't want to say the pandemic ended, but like the lockdown started last year in March, and then it ended surprisingly soon after. Now that I think about the context of COVID and how quickly things were reopening, like in May, June, like the early stages of Disney and whatnot. But at some point in there, it had to have been before the pandemic, because I don't think Primeval World reopened after the pandemic.
I think it got a temporary closure before things had started shutting down. Like it's gonna be seasonal, but it really never got to be seasonal.
Yeah, I think it was the February before the pandemic started. I went, and Primeval World just happened to be open for a busy weekend, and it's a fine coaster. It's nothing great, but my big beef with Disney tearing it down is the fact that Animal Kingdom has so few rides already.
That's true.
Like if this was Universal Studios taking out the Woody Woodpecker's Nut House coaster, there wouldn't be a huge capacity dent to the park. But at Animal Kingdom, where each land has one, maybe two rides for a grand total of, I want to say probably less than 10 actual rideable attractions.
I believe it is less than 10. Park. It's around, it might be less than Hollywood Studios, but it's a similar number. Very low.
Yeah, it's like, why, to what end is taking out this coaster good, other than we want to save money by not maintaining it? Like Disney's decisions have been consistently baffling to me. And this is one where it's just like, the ride is there. It's not great, sure, but it's a place for people to go. It gives them something else to do. And it is a roller coaster, which by nature has that interest factor of, hey, this park has more than one roller coaster. That's adds value to my day, because roller coasters, even smaller ones, are like viewed as higher ticket attractions. So unless they're planning on replacing this within the next 12 months, Disney management absolutely failed. And I'm just disappointed that this is not only what Dinoland has become, which Dinoland was already suffering, but they're just like, we just don't want to pay to run the ride, so we're just going to tear it down and leave an empty hole in the land, which appears to be the primary rumor. And that to me is not only lazy, but going actively out of your way to hurt your own guest experience numbers.
Maybe they'll set up tables and an umbrella. and umbrella. Who knows? I don't know. This is also, I never wrote it. I never got, well, I don't want to say I never got to write it because I did have the opportunity to write it. I remember that moment actually very vividly, surprisingly. Is the day after, long ago, Rise of the Resistance was open. This was the last time I was at Animal Kingdom was December of 2019, and who knew it was actually the last days of this ride existing. But I remember we were there with a pal of ours, Landon, and it was us three, and I think he was waiting on his boarding group over at Hollywood Studios because we managed to have the they call it the gold pass. I was about to call it the ruby pass, but that's Hagrid's. Basically, the come back and ride it or use this fast pass on anything. And we're going to use that on Rise of the Resistance, but we started out at Animal Kingdom for whatever reason. And we were waiting on his boarding group. And there's also the thought that maybe his boarding group will never come. And we were trying to figure out what to do. And one of the options that Jonathan and Landon gave me in the moment was, hey, we're in Dino Land. We're literally right in front of Primeval Whirl. It's a 35-minute wait. Do you want to do it? Or do you want to go do something in Pandora in the meantime? Or do you want to, do whatever? And I said, you know what? Let's go to Pandora. And we might have ridden the Nafi River journey. Who knows? I can't remember.
Didn't we start our day in, like, it's so weird. I need to take more pictures of things that happen in life because this entire day happened and I have next to no recollection of it. Probably because I was at Disney the day prior for the Rise of the Resistance grand opening. So that memory, I think, probably dwarfs the day after.
You also went to Disney a whole lot more than I do.
I did. I went a lot around that time.
You're a pass holder at the time. I paid for that's what happened. Is after Rise of the Resistance opened, you'd ridden it. You said it was great. We spent a day at Hollywood Studios. I think we had planned to go to Animal Kingdom. We might have gotten tickets from another friend of ours. And we to use that. That's because back then, if you missed out on your boarding group, they gave you a free ticket to the parks. So that's what we're using, I think, or at least that's what I was
that
using.
makes. Yeah, I think I transferred you one of my free tickets that I got. That makes sense.
And that's how we were in that situation. So really, we had free reign on. Well, not free reign. You don't want to be a menace to society.
That was a wild weekend.
It was a wild weekend.
I don't know how
I went to a theme park in a polo that day. That's how wild that was. It was also December. And it was quite comfortable. But yeah, I never got to ride it. And in some sense, I wish I kind of did, just for the experience, for the credit. And I know some people love it. Like, I mean, Twitter's favorite theme park, and I say this sincerely, theme park person, Alicia Stella, who just finds the beauty in the strangest things of theme parks, whether it's Pizza Rizzo or Kite Tails or Primeval Whirl. In a way, I wanted to experience that, but I also heard it was not that great. And so I did not regret missing out on it at the time. And I don't regret missing out on that as much as I do Day in the Park with Barney. Strangely enough, I think it's because there's a personal thing with Barney.
It also is that cool special effect of the Barney plush, and then Barney's there in real life.
Oh, well, there you go. So you didn't see that in person.
Yeah. So the next thing is the Cheetah Hunt fall closure. So it's closing for a couple months to be repainted, presumably have some work done, and
be back by Christmas.
This is a good thing. Cheetah Hunt has not been down for an extended period of time since it opened. So it's been about 10 years. So I think, it was time for a repainting. I think the coaster just also, like, it's not rough or anything, but it'll just be nice to see the whole thing get TLC. Maybe they'll finally fix the queue line TVs and start using.
Oh yeah, those have not worked.
No, and start using the double loading station again, which would be nice. Which that's a huge contributor to the capacity devastation that ride is, because I refuse to ride it unless you go in the morning, because since COVID, they've only ever run the first half of the station because they're understaffed. And so that means a train is getting dispatched about every 90 seconds. That's 16 people. And that leads to like probably around 700 people an hour ish. And then that is also the most popular ride for Quick Queue, which means another like 350 of those 700 people are Quick Queue riders. And so you're moving at about 350 people per hour in the standby line, and it is a travesty. So when I ride Cheetah Hunt, get there first thing in the morning and get it out of the way. but I hope this fall closure will help them to run both stations again.
I love that you brought the maths into this, because the only reason I put on this list is because I'm a little ticked off because I just started to like the ride again. I bought a Busch Gardens annual pass because my brother goes and his friends go, and I thought, well, I should probably go too. This is like a local
Get
park.
out of the house.
I should do it. Yeah, get out of the house. And I went once on pass holder night where they had the park open at night just for pass holders. I rode Cheetah Hunt at night.
So good at night.
Here's the big side effect about a pandemic. I gained a lot of weight, and the restraint system was no longer comfortable to me. And so I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And I hadn't been using my Busch Gardens pass ever since then. Like, I don't know how many months it was, but I'm like, man, that was maybe not the wisest investment.
Yeah.
However, we've been going more often. And in these times that we've gone, I've been much more comfortable. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is what it feels like. This is why it's really fun. And now it's closed. It's just I'm getting my rhythm.
Yeah, I hope they also fix the water area towards the back end. It's supposed to have...
I thought something was missing there. I thought it was going down.
No, there's supposed to be water running the opposite direction, which increases your sense of speed going through the cavern because the water is kind of going the opposite direction.
I remembered that. And then it wasn't there. And then I watched a video from the opening. I thought it was the opening. Maybe it was a different day. I don't know. But it wasn't there then. And like, did I just imagine it?
No,
I'm glad you're affirming me. I'm glad you're validating.
Yeah, that was one of the best effects, especially at night. Just the feel of that specific part of the ride going through the caverns and the sound of the water and everything. It was just a very all-encompassing experience. So hopefully they fix that, and hopefully they get whatever it is they're doing over by the Rhino Rally area. That's one of the other rumors, is that it's closing so that they can do work on that project, which is supposed to be a giant SNS scream and swing.
Interesting.
Which they might have to do foundation work, and they don't want to disturb that part of Cheetah Hunt. But big thing is repainting. I'm glad it'll be open for Christmas because I know I'm going back around Christmas time. And Iron Gwazi is what we're all looking for.
I dread it. I so dread Iron Gwazi. I see it and I feel weak in the knees.
I can't.
And I'm like, I don't know. Oh boy. I mean, I did Shikra again too recently, and I forgot what that thing was like, but man, that was a lot of fun. And I'm sure Iron Gwazi, once I get over that beyond vertical drop, I'll be fine.
You put your hands up first time?
No. I didn't even put my hands up on Velocicoaster, and I've ridden that 3 times. There's no way.
I was trying to get him to put his hands up on the Mosasaurus roll. He wouldn't do it. It's the best experience.
Oh no. Oh. And then lastly, the Frontierland Shootin Gallery.
I have no emotions. None at all.
Oh, wait, hold on. This just in. It's not closing. It's just free, and as they say, it was a misfire. The announcement was a misfire. Banshee, you missed that in your little your little news thing, didn't ya?
I would make fun of him. That's
What's he gonna do? Come to my house?
I don't know.
He can't fly that far. He's a puppet.
That is a good point.
All right. Yeah, I might have done it once when I was like 5. But now that it's free, if I'm ever there, I'd like to check it out again, perhaps.
Like Tom Sawyer Island, just a fun little Frontierland excursion.
Oh, Tom Sawyer Island is wonderful. That and Camp Jurassic, underrated experiences that most people skip out on.
Oh, Universal's finally fixing the Camp Jurassic nets, so that's exciting.
Well, I didn't realize they were broken. That's really worrisome, but I'm glad you got that intel.
Well, I mean, they've been closed, I think, since the pandemic. They reopened for the pandemic, so I think they're using that time to... I don't think they were dangerous, but, the ropes have been there for 20 years. It's time to refresh.
Well, Jonathan, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I have a childhood fear of ropes and rope bridges.
Really?
I was a large child, and I was afraid I was going to fall through.
Oh, no.
That's my only memory of the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Was it called the Playset Adventure?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was getting on the ropes and worrying that I was going to... I don't know. There's some trauma behind that. I don't know what it is. I'm sure it's just playground memories and eating Totino's pizzas alone. Sorry, not alone, by myself. Because there were other people there. Anyway. Is that it for Remember the Fallen?
That's all the Fallen things. So
all right. Are we going to take a moment of silence?
Yeah.
Nah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Ta-da. Before we go into the next segment, I've not been to Disney World for the anniversary, so I don't think I can talk about it.
Neither have I. I refuse to renew my Disney pass until there's something new and good that is original, which none of the new things have qualified as. Ratatouille is not original because it's already been built somewhere else. Enchantment and Harmonious are decidedly not good from public opinion, but I was never huge on nighttime shows anyway. I did like Happily Ever After, but if Enchantment is not as good as Happily Ever After, then I don't need to get an annual pass to see it. I'll probably renew my annual pass.
Key. Get your annual key.
Right. When I get my magic key and can go one day every month, it will be for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind because that is original and it is new, and I will gladly cough up money to ride a new themed roller coaster in the same vein as Escape from Gringotts, which is one of my favorite attractions of all time. And if Gringotts could potentially be dethroned, that's something that I got to check out.
Wow. Now, do you mean dethroned just in terms of rides that are similar to each other, or do you just mean like dethroned as your favorite ride of all time?
I don't think necessarily favorite ride of all time. I think Gringotts will always, at least for the time being, be my favorite just because it's such a comfort attraction. Like I could go and ride that 5 or 6 times in a day and just not get tired of it, I think. And I talked about this a little bit in my video from years ago, but I still feel the same way. It's one of those that just the pacing of it really feels like a movie. People are like, oh, Gringotts is paced so weird. It's got the long pauses with dialogue scenes and nothing's happening. And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm getting not only what I love with a good story and like film like pacing, but I'm also getting motion simulation and roller coaster bits and 3D effects and heat and water and practical sets. It's kind of everything come together. And for me, the pacing almost, like, everybody always says the ride feels short, but I think it's just because they're expecting ride-esque sections.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, so that 15-20 seconds we were in front of the screen, that doesn't really count as a ride in my mind because we weren't doing anything. But for me, I think that's part of what makes Gringotts so unique and great, is that it has that aspect of really trying to tell a story in a way so few rides actually do, even if it is a flawed story. So that's my tangent on why Gringotts is my favorite. I also think its music is superior to almost any other attraction I can think of except for maybe Flight of Passage. But Guardians is taking that same ride system, the story coaster, and there's a lot more coaster, and it does have the Guardians characters who I enjoy, and it is Disney, so it will probably actually have animatronics. Not crossing my fingers, but it might.
I don't know.
And from the looks of it, it looks to be a pretty rip rockin' space adventure. So I think as far as a favorite story coaster, it does certainly have the potential to dethrone Gringotts. That's why I'm excited for it. Like Tron, I know Tron's not going to dethrone Gringotts because I can go watch the Shanghai Disneyland POV, and that is not me saying you can judge a ride completely by its POV because that's not true. But Tron is one of those rides as such where it's kind of easy to see what you're getting from the POV, and obviously I won't fully judge it till the experience, but I don't anticipate it dethroning something as unique as Gringotts.
Well, I mean, as you say, you can't judge a ride by its ride video, which is why I will forever be heartbroken that I cannot experience Knights in White Satin the trip.
This is true. Only operated for a couple months, less than a season, really.
Oh man. Well, did you see Muppets Haunted Mansion?
I did.
Oh, what'd you think? Briefly, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but what'd you think?
It was. I think it was. I don't think it hit for me the same way it hit for others.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine. Like some of the, I feel like a lot of the jokes were I don't want to say run of the mill, but run of the mill. It was in just a very nice. It was in a very nice package. The songs were catchy. I don't know. I just kind of came out and was just like, yeah, that was a Muppet special. It didn't hit me in the same way as Muppets Most Wanted, which I really liked. I think part of that might just be, it might be the performance. Obviously it's not Steve Whitmire's Kermit, so it doesn't fully feel like the Muppets in that sense. And some of it might just be that I don't have the same connection to Haunted Mansion that the rest of Diz Twitter has. I feel like for a lot of people, the Haunted Mansion is like an all-time favorite, a classic, a must ride every time. For me, I've always felt like it's a masterpiece for sure, but I don't have any strong emotions towards it. I wasn't emotionally moved by like the your doom buggy has stopped speech, although that did get a good laugh out of me.
It did have some surprising zingers, and I don't know why I underestimate Will Arnett, but I mean, Banshee said it. I think he put it really well when he said that he was great. I mean, he didn't say those exact words. I have chosen to forget everything Banshee has said, but I do remember that one thing he did say. I wasn't sure I was going to be as the ghost host, but I think he did a fine job. There's a lot of good Easter eggs. I was pleasantly surprised. I think that's my tone on it. I had a lot of fun, but I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not going to turn it on again anytime soon. I don't think. Maybe I will. Who knows? Time has a way of making things
This
work
is true,
out.
but I see like
Yes,
people
yes.
on Twitter like Defunct Land and Houston saying they watched like 4 or 5 times this week, and I'm like,
Houston Coley,
yeah,
that is great video
yes,
essayists. Go check them out.
absolutely. I would not watch this 5 times. It's just not my thing. As much as I do enjoy good Muppets content.
Relevant thing, one, because Banshee brought it up, but also that's the talk of the town.
Yeah.
But now that the town has talked, I think we need to make up for a long delayed promise. Do you remember what that promise was?
At the end of my Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway video, I said I would have an in-depth review later, which did not come about.
Well, there's also an asterisk to that, because you gave yourself a timeline to do it. You said you weren't going to do it until I wrote
it. I forgot about that.
Yeah. You said, yep, we're going to do a full-length review, in-depth review soon as Adam rides it. And I went, well, I guess we got to write it soon. And then everything shut down. And then I had not gone back to Disney to write it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to ride Runaway Railway. I just didn't really feel like going to Hollywood Studios at the time. I did recently. I did write it. Oh, it's so beautiful. I loved it and fun.
It really is. Just the animation is stellar. The idea behind it is stellar. And I think coming out of it for the first time, I think I talked about this a little bit, but I don't think it fully utilizes the trackless technology. I think depending on what car you sit in, the pacing is really funky, especially with like the underwater scene or like you entering and exiting scenes later.
The ending feels different depending on what car.
This is very true.
Like the first time I wrote it, we wrote it twice when we went back, but the first time I wrote it, we like missed, I think, 75% of that scene because we were just coming on the tail end as Mickey was about to be smushed, and then he doesn't by some miracle. I don't remember what the miracle was because we were in the back.
Yeah.
I didn't even really catch the 2.5D effect happening. I knew it was coming. I'd seen the ride through videos because that's the way I am. Yeah, I missed that. It didn't register the first time. I still love the ride, but yeah, you're totally right. The pacing is different each time. Funky might be an accurate word. I don't know if it's the word I would use to describe it, but again, I mean, that's it's like Kong and the Rose. It's still, Kong is always a great ride. No matter what our comment section says, oh boy, they disagree. They do not think that is even a good ride. It is our most disliked video, probably because we say, guys, it's a great ride. Our comments disagree. But I mean, you even you said this, and I think I've said this, just depending on where you are, it's a different experience and not always maybe the optimal experience, even though I think the effects on that sell it no matter what. Yeah, Mickey and Minnie is the same way, where you get a unique experience where there's different highs and different lows. And I think that balance between, like, each car is going to miss something, but each car is also going to gain something. One car is going to stick around and catch something that a different car is not going to catch. But they caught something in the tail end scene that they won't catch in the front end of the next scene. So that balance, I think it makes it feel more intentional than a flaw.
Yeah, adds rewritability. I also think
it has great comfort ride energy.
Yeah, I think the direction pointing to what's supposed to be happening can be tough sometimes, just because the animation is sometimes so small. Like, I'm thinking specifically about the last scene, the 2.5D, where you're approaching the chomper, which is like threatening to crush Mickey. Like, that's so far, if you're in the third or fourth car, to even grasp what the stakes of the scene are. I do think in some ways it hurts the story, but at the end of the day, it's not a ride that I'm going to complain about, because it's new.
Not at all.
It has new technology. It has an original song. It's providing representation for the television animation division, which I can always get behind. And it's just, it's new, it's experimental. And while that obviously might not be a masterpiece, it's a lot of fun. And there's certain scenes, just like the dancing scene, where it's just like, you're just having a good time. And the ride does what it sets out to achieve very well.
I agree. I didn't really ever have an attachment to the original series of Paul Rudish Mickey Mouse shorts. That's his name, right? Paul Rudish?
Yeah.
I think I saw one or two of the shorts, and I saw some of the style, and I didn't like what they're doing with Goofy. I thought he didn't look goofy, it looked gross. I thought the tone it wasn't the Mickey I grew up with. I grew up with the Wayne Allwine Mickey, and the Wayne Allwine Mickey, which started in A Christmas Carol, Mickey's Christmas Carol, and went on until Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. Or is it 358 days over 2? 358 days over 2. That's the name of it. 2009. He was the only Mickey I knew. And his Mickey is very different from Walt's Mickey, or the guy who was after Walt. Mickey has evolved over the years, which I've learned through Disney Plus. We're not sponsored, it's not a plug, but that was one of my projects during the pandemic. I wanted to watch as many, of the old shorts, get to learn Disney, get to learn what this company was about, or maybe not company, but what the artist was about. What was the storytelling? Because that's one of the big pitches they made for Disney Plus. It's like, we have the best stories going back to the 30s, going back to 1928. So rewatching like Steamboat Willie, but also discovering new things like clock cleaners, those are different Mickeys. And then when you get into the 40s, he kind of gets domesticated a little bit. Not a bad thing, but it's a reflection of the times. And by the 50s, that's a totally different Mickey Mouse, right? And so by the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, Mickey was a good boy. He didn't have a lot of representation. He was a club owner in the House of Mouse, but he was like a really, charming dude. And, in the Kingdom Hearts series, which I will always plug because it's incredible and way too convoluted, but so beautiful. He was like Yoda. This is just the kind of Mickey I did. And then I, watched the Paul Rudish shorts, a short or two, and it's not that Mickey. I'm like, that's not my Mickey, and that's not who Mickey is. But Mickey has always changed, I have learned. And so seeing the ride, I'm falling in love with that song. And then watching the reboot of the Mickey Mouse shorts through The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse, which I absolutely adore. And, it's a completely different cast. The Christian Mentopoulos, I believe is his name. He's not the official voice actor for Mickey, but I love his interpretation. And they just recast Minnie Mouse because sadly,
Russi Taylor.
Yeah, Russi Taylor. She was Wayne Allwine, who was Mickey Mouse. They were married. Sadly, she has passed away, but I love the new voice of Minnie. I think they both do such a great job, and I think the animation is clever. The gags are clever, and the ride has that spirit. And I'm glad that's represented at Hollywood Studios.
And it's bringing Mickey to a new generation as well. Like, the humor definitely is a lot more modern, with like, the meme explosions and super wild, wacky expressions that are going to keep kids' attention in the media landscape where everything is so wild and trying to catch your attention. I feel like the Mickey shorts fit into that really well.
Yeah. And the effects are good too, like on the ride. I know you're saying the water scenes maybe don't time as well depending on where you sit, but that there's one scene where I didn't realize until the second time when I went on it, but it was actually being used as a scene transition. You're in this big room underwater, or you're being drained away. I can't exactly remember. And then you go into this little like cove, which is just a giant screen, but it feels super immersive. Even though you can see the projector light, because obviously have a projector in there somewhere. But it was like a really cool effect. And then you go out and you're like, oh, this is like a different scene, but it's the same room. Oh, that was a really clever way of doing that. This the technology of that ride and the animatronics, they look funky at first. Like, I'm not gonna lie, they look funky. But that's also like a lot of the charm, and not like that's so bad, it's good kind of way. The way we're kind of talking about Kite Tails, or sometimes Poseidon's Fury, or sometimes Fast and Furious Supercharged. I'm feeling very nice one day. It fits the style. And I think they do a really good job of incorporating all the things. And the ride's kind of dark too. Like my cousin and my brother and I, we rode it, and we were the last to leave the dance scene with Daisy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've stuck around that long in that scene, but her cackle is wicked. Oh my gosh, it's frightening. And I love it. I love every part of that ride. That's one. If there's anything right now that would get me to invest in a magic key, which there's not really anything that's making me feel that pull, even though we're a theme park show. Got to think about your personal financials. It would be that ride. Like if I lived closer, I'd get a pass for that ride and the Haunted Mansion, of course. But
that's high praise.
Rise of Resistance. It really is. I mean, it's, again, I'm not going to go out and spend $120 to get a ticket whenever I feel the urge, but it's really a solid ride. And if I were in this situation where I would, that would be my go-to.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite, I don't think, but I really love it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really good surprise. Not surprise. Well, in a way, it was kind of a surprise. You know what it's going to be. It doesn't have virtual queue. Never had virtual queue. Thank goodness. Because it's such a great experience overall. Although, if you think about it, having that with boarding groups would actually make a lot of sense with the whole movie thing. It's like it wouldn't be your boarding group 7. It would be your showtime as
That's
arrived.
true.
That would have been really cool. I'm glad they didn't do it though, because I like 45-minute wait times at the most. You know what I mean?
Yes, I think and I guess this is kind of touching on the news a little bit. Virtual queue is in its current state at Disney and boarding groups is a massive failure of an experiment, because what it does is having boarding groups removes the opportunity cost for any given attraction, thereby creating a higher, nearly unlimited demand because there is no cost to ride said attraction, which hereby causes the chaos of no virtual line spots and the fight over who's got the fastest Wi-Fi. Whereas when a ride, I know there's so much discourse about this on Twitter, but when the ride has a line, not everybody is going to want to wait 45 minutes, an hour at any given time for that specific ride. And so people are like, oh, it's going to have unregulated 3-hour wait times. It's like, no, it's not, because all the people who are getting the virtual lines in the morning, they just wanted to ride it at some point during the day. But now the only way to do that is to get on the phone, and there is no cost to do that. So why would you not do that? So now everybody's doing that. And
shooting the shot.
And now people aren't going to get to ride the ride who wanted to, when in fact, having just a regular line, maybe later in the day, the family really likes Toy Story Land because they do that first. And they say, oh, we just kind of want to spend the rest of the day here with the kids instead of doing Star Wars because they're really enjoying it here. Well, now that spot is freed up for somebody else who says, hey, it's an hour wait. We really wanted to do this. We might as well just get in line. And I think that's the ultimate issue is just virtual line. There's no opportunity cost. Anybody can do it. And when you try to channel that all to one time, it doesn't work. I think that's why Volcano Bay has settled into working really well, is because the virtual lines open when the lines get long. So you have all the rides that are less popular, you can just wait for, because and you can use those to fill your time while you have a time for something else in a virtual line. And that system works well, having, I think, a balance of virtual line and non-virtual line attractions. But also, at the start of the day, none of the attractions at Volcano Bay are virtual line because the people haven't stacked up yet. So people are just going on to the rides.
There's no queues.
Exactly. Why would you get a virtual line pass and take up this theoretical capacity that you've created for virtual line tickets when there's not a line at the beginning of the day anyways. And that's my take on virtual lines that nobody wanted.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're just adding to a conversation that's never going to end. But my biggest gripe, and I don't know if it's really a gripe, but just as a person who experiences things, I don't like getting up early. I mean, granted, if you're up at 7, then you're probably gonna be leaving within an hour. And if you leave at 8 to get to park at 9, or maybe like 10 minutes away, that's actually a time you should be leaving.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not that bad, but just like the idea of like having to get up at that certain time, I'm still a lazy bum.
And if you sleep through
at
it,
heart,
you're not going to get to ride the ride
Right,
that day.
yeah.
It's kind of outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I've always been lucky with the virtual lines. I've never missed out on it. I also don't go as much as some people do, so there's that. But I mean, I'm glad Rise of the Resistance that's a standby queue, because we went with our cousin. He had never been to Star Wars Land. He's a big Star Wars fan, so we thought it'd be nice to gift him with that. And I think we could have ridden Rise of the Resistance, 5 times, and that it could have been the only thing we ever did. We could have never seen Mickey. We could have never done the Tower of Terror. We could have completely bypassed Rock and Roller Coaster and Slinky. Probably not the Millennium Falcon. Got to do the Millennium Falcon. But if all we did was Rise of the Resistance, we'd have been set for life. And it'd totally been worth the cost. But of course, we didn't have that option. Now, if we went, we do have that option. But I wonder too, I was thinking as you were talking, I wonder if boarding groups are going to stay very long. Because I know another experiment that Disney tried in 2020 was the Premier Access option on Disney Plus.
Right.
For films like Mulan and Black Widow and not Soul. Soul was straight there. Yeah.
Cruella?
Jungle Cruise, Cruella, that was the other one. I think it was just those 4. Yeah. And granted, there is that whole controversy with Scarlett Johansson that I think is really good for her, good for fighting for herself. But I think that's kind of turned them off from trying that again anytime soon. So, and I feel like that's going to go away the same way the HBO Max day and date theatrical drop. I think they've already said that's going away after 2021. I wonder if Premier Access is going to go the same way. And I wonder if boarding groups are going to go away for things like Web Slingers in California, which from the sound of it, it isn't like, doesn't need it. And Ratatouille, it doesn't need it from what it sounds like. Granted, I'm not there. I'm not paying super deep attention to it. But I just wonder if this was like a phase.
Yeah. I hope we don't see day date boarding groups at 7 a.m. or before the park opens stay around at all.
Yeah. I mean, in 2018, is that when Fallon opened?
Yeah.
Or is it 2017?
Yeah.
Might have 2017 Fallon Volcano Bay opened, and then it was followed by Fast and Furious Supercharged the next year. Universal's going to lead the way with the virtual line, and then Hagrid's was announced to have a virtual line, and they didn't implement that until very late in the game, at the point where you really didn't need it. I think the Universal seems like it's going to save these things just as like a bonus, because you can still ride those 2 attractions, the Fast and Furious and Fallon, anytime. And other ways you can sometimes have the standby open.
Yeah.
They always have express, so it's just like an extra
way to ride, right? Like you can still stand by and wait for it, but you're not going to be preferred over the people who do the virtual line, which is honestly for Fallon it works really well just because of the queue system. But I think for Hagrid's, even just the way Universal does their time drops, where there's more of them, and they're actually pretty well integrated into the app. Like you don't have to select your parties and have your accounts linked. You just say, here's how many people are in my party, pick a time, boom. Like the process is infinitely easy. And I know they were testing a new system recently, which I got a chance to try out, which is really interesting, where boarding groups, or not boarding groups, but like virtual line tickets are available just throughout the day as demand goes up or down, and depending on how the ride performs. And they're almost always available for the entire first hour the park was open, which some people didn't like because there used to be scheduled drops. But then, like, if the ride was doing better, more groups would open up throughout the day. So you just kept checking it. And because the ride runs so well, eventually more would open, even if you did it. But you had like an hour at the beginning of the day to get a ride ticket. It wasn't like Disney where they're gone in seconds. So people had less complaints with it. I think it was fine. I think I like their app integrated method better, but it's a changing world for sure.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see the future of it, even if I'm just on the outside looking in and seeing other people on Twitter argue about it, because I doubt I'll make many tweets.
Yeah.
Moving on is the Bourne Stuntacular. That was another big opening attraction. I think the first big one, when everything started to open up, which in a way is kind of ironic considering it's a show with a lot of contact.
Yeah.
But
They're
I mean, nowadays I don't think it's not as much of an issue. I mean, we have horror nights going on right
yeah,
now,
they
and
were performing it with masks from day one. But yeah, what do you
yeah,
think of Bourne?
I really enjoy it. I can't wait for my family to experience it. My dad's a huge Jason Bourne fan. We have all the movies. The original trilogy is just some of his favorite movies of all time. So I really can't wait to experience it with them. But personally, like my brother just got a pass, and so I'm excited for him to experience it just because it's cool. He has no relation to Bourne. He has no like connection to Bourne, but just because of the technology with the screens and the stunts and all of that. I mean, the story is nothing deep, but it is a must see attraction.
That was my experience. No real connection to Bourne. I think I fell asleep during the first movie like 6 years ago, so I don't think that counts as proper viewing.
No, no, it's like saying, "Yeah, I watched Fellowship of the Ring. I fell asleep in the first half hour." You can't say you watched The Lord of the Rings if you only gave it a half hour
Another
try.
dig at me, but
Yep.
but I thought Bourne was a really solid addition. I think it's the definitive nail in the coffin for 3D on a grander sense in theme parks. I think we're going to see high resolution 2D quickly become the standard because the amount of depth that you're able to perceive with that super high resolution screen is more than 3D can even provide, really. And so while I think 3D was great for its time, and it does still have its unique charm, I think if you're going for realism, this is the next generation of what what we're gonna see in screen rides going forward. Even looking at Secret Life of Pets, which isn't in 3D and its screens and how it incorporates those. But I think the show is itself, it has some pacing issues. It's got what some would consider to be an anticlimactic finale, but you can't deny that the visual effect of everything that's happening is incredibly impressive, especially the camera moves when the background.
And the performers are greatly
Oh,
talented too.
absolutely. The stunts are really well executed, the stunt falls, and just it's a really solid package, and it's a solid replacer for T2 3D. And I saw it on a regular basis when it opened week to week. The pre-show is, do I want to say dreadfully long at the very least. It's not great. The green screen, like I can see, like I've had better green screen keys for theme park workshop, and mine are pretty rough.
It's not that the first episode. I'll give you the first
but like
episode.
I can
but
see
keys
like the
been pretty
green
decent.
outline around the poor actress who is apparently from the movies.
Yeah.
But you probably have more thoughts on how this fits into the Bourne canon.
Yeah, one of my favorite bits about it lore wise, because whenever I go to a Universal attraction, and granted, to like Back to the Future the ride and Shrek 40's credit, what they did for Universal was introduce a way to connect things with the properties in terms of storytelling and canon within like the chronology. So if we're looking at the chronology of Bourne, this takes place after the fifth movie. Retcons a couple of things and even introduces a new form, a new presence of the long-running antagonistic system, Treadstone. They give it a new name, which if they follow through with that in like a sixth Bourne movie or the Treadstone TV show, I don't know if they did it. I haven't seen it. It's on Peacock, so I haven't seen it. Actually, that's a dig at Peacock, but it shouldn't be. That's actually become a mainstay in our house, surprisingly, and it's not because of me. It's American Pickers, but lore wise, I just think it's really cool that they are doing that, and it might be just a theme park way of writing off. Oh yeah, we wanted Julia Stiles, but I guess it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for her to be there. But it's a theme park ride, so really, what does it matter? And that's just the way of writing it off. I don't know, but I think it is faithful to the Bourne movies. It's got references to the Bourne movies, and if you're a Bourne fan, I can't imagine a world in which you do not enjoy this experience.
That's fair. I think the other thing people talk about is the insane lengths it goes to give you a place in the story, going through the security check and the whole we're putting you in this theater to observe Jason Bourne and point stuff out. But then as soon as you're seated in the theater, this team member comes up and is like, "Welcome to the Bourne Stuntacular. Are you ready for the show?"
Oh yeah, that is
It's a
weird.
very
It's very weird. And it's like indoors too. You don't really have that pre-show experience for a show. You have that for like
right.
an immersive attraction like T2. Um, and then when you're in there, you sit down, yeah, and like Fear Factor Live, which may be going away, who knows?
Yeah.
Probably. It should. Whatever goes there, I'll just be glad it's not Fear Factor. Um, um, but with that, or even Sinbad, gone, not really beloved, but when it was there, they did just like, hey, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna tell you the entire story of this show, but with like guests and have some guest interaction, but really emphasize this as a show. And Bourne tries to have it both ways, and it's strange and it's paced weird. But when you're in it, you really don't care.
Show's cool.
Yeah, and maybe that's fine. I think maybe Universal, some might say they're being going too far in the whole immersive canon, immersive themes,
Right.
and trying to be super faithful to putting you in the action and not really just being
Yeah.
as relaxed as their other systems are. Like their line system is more relaxed than say Disney. Their reservation systems feel more relaxed than Disney.
They don't even have reservations.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe their attractions should still be, state of the art, high class, give it your all, but also just be like, yeah, this is a fun thing, a fun attraction.
Yeah. So next is Velocicoaster, which was a really, really big one. I know we have a Jurassic Park episode of the podcast planned for down the line, so I'll be brief about this, but I got to go to the very first pass holder preview day. I was blown away. It's a great coaster. The theming is exceptional. The queue is great. The dialogue written for the pre-shows is hilarious. The queue is also well paced. It has screens, it has animatronics, it has interaction with the coaster. It has essentially an augmented reality window. It has that incredible Michael Giacchino score. The lockers are halfway through the queue, so you don't have to not have your phone in the queue. And just the whole vibe of the building feels very Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. And then the coaster itself is incredibly exceptional. I think it's better in the front than it is in the back for sure. But man,
You did get around to riding the back.
that's where I started. I started riding in the back.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually think it's rougher in the back. You get a lot more whip, which is very
some people love.
Very intense. But the front row is definitely the superior experience in my opinion. But
yeah, most of my experiences were in the front, and I enjoyed those experiences more than I was in like row 8.
Yeah.
That I'm like, okay, I'm done. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt you.
but I think the layout is great. The launches are great. The Mosasaurus roll is the star, and I think this coaster does what Universal's been really doing well with their attractions, is trying to give them strong finales. And I feel like that's usually where roller coasters fail. I think the Incredible Hulk is an excellent example of a very weak ending to a great ride. But Hagrid's
That's fair.
ends with the drop and the final launch, which is the fastest launch, really epic finale. Velocicoaster ends with this move that you can't get on any other roller coaster, where you're literally rolling right above the water, like inches from it. And that's its closing statement. And that to me, Universal always pushing the bar for what the final statement of a coaster or an attraction can be. Like, Gringotts ends with the big launch with spinning and a 360 dome, which isn't even on the rest of the ride. I'm trying to think, Men in Black, even that, trying to end with the huge show off with the monster alien. And I feel like that does contribute to your feeling coming off of the ride, is having a strong finale. That's another strike against Forbidden Journey for me. But yeah, that's kind of my take on Velocicoaster. What do you think?
I've not stopped thinking about that ride since I rode it. It's not a ride I can do back to back to back to back to back like some can. It's just a little too intense, and like after the third go, I'm like, I'm done. I'm good. I can do other things. Let's go do Spider-Man. That's nice and gentle, right? But it is really amazing. It is incredible. I don't know if it's. I still haven't decided if I like that or Hulk more, because I know the last half is it cools down more so than picks up. It's not a huge closing statement, but just an overall experience. I'm not sure which one I prefer, but I know that I love the Velocicoaster. I'm so excited for everyone I know to ride it. Like whenever there are friends I'm talking to and like, oh yeah, we're gonna go check out Universal. I'm like, are you gonna do the Velocicoaster? Are you gonna do the Velocicoaster? Because you should do the Velocicoaster. You should make sure you do the Velocicoaster. But it's like a 90-minute wait. Yeah, but you should do the Velocicoaster.
Yeah.
No matter what.
And the line goes by so fast. It's a very
it really does.
It's a very well integrated line, like I was saying.
Yeah, everything you were saying, the way the screens are integrated in the queue and the different props they have in the queue and how they use the video screens in the queue, the pre-show videos with Mr. DNA talking about dinosaurs. You know, it's just incredible. And the ride elements are a lot of fun. The coaster seat, I love that seat. I love that coaster seat. And, you know, maybe it's because distance makes the heart grow fonder because I'm rarely in that seat the way it tries to kick you out of that seat. It's really relentless and super intense, but Universal really should give themselves a pat on the back. And the folks who were the project managers on that ride, definitely check out their interviews on the Universal blog and the different other theme park podcasts and YouTube channels, because there really is a very apparent love and care and dedication behind the greatest movie franchise. Well, I don't know if it's the greatest movie franchise of all time, but the first movie is like the greatest movie of all time. It's like up there. I don't. If you say it's A-, I'm going to question your life choices. You know, it's an A++. And if you don't love the Jurassic World movies, or you don't love Chris Pratt, or you don't love Trevorrow's decisions, I really don't like the decisions in Jurassic World 2, but it doesn't matter because I love the ride.
And you love Chris Pratt as Mario.
Yeah. I was going to do an impression of, I can't do an impression though. I have no idea what that voice is going to be, and I don't know how to do his voice. I just know Parks and Rec bloopers that I can't say on this because this is a family show. Ooh. But if you know, you know. But yeah, anyway, Velocicoaster, great ride.
Next, you wanted to talk about Halloween Horror Nights. I refuse to attend these scary events because scares are just not my thing. I have tried haunted houses, just not my cup of tea. They're not
haunted houses plural.
I've tried haunted house. It's just not something.
But once, you only did it once.
I did it once.
So yeah, here's the thing about haunted houses, Jonathan. You got to do multiple, and you got to get used to it, and then you can have a lot of fun. Because I was terrified. I was cursing like a sailor my first 2 or 3 houses, and after that, I had the time of my life. And that was the first year I did in HHN 29. And then I did the HHN fall preview last year. That was kind of like the temporary replacement for Horror Nights when everything was shut down. They couldn't do the full event because it just wouldn't make sense from a financial standpoint with everything going on, or a health standpoint, probably with everything going on. But this year's event is just incredible. It is closing.
Blood guts, jump scares, and drunk people are not. It just doesn't sound like.
Well, that's why you go in September when there's less drunks. Yeah, that's the key. That's what I've learned from Twitter. But yeah, this year's event is great. There really is no bad haunted house. The scare zones most of them are like really great. Some of them use more stages than like the scares, like up in your face scares. But it's a good mix. It's a good mix. The shows, we didn't do a single show, my family and I, the first year we went, but this year we did the 2 shows. And they are both just incredible. Not for everyone. Like Halloween Nightmare Fuel, as soon as they said, this may have some adult content. No, this does have adult content. If that offends you, leave. And as soon as the show started, a guy came out in a tank top, and this family just stood up. The little girl looked traumatized, and they left. Ooh. That was what traumatized people. Not the haunted houses. This fell in a tank top because they knew what kind of show this might have been, and they weren't going to stick around to verify. And then this Lagoon show. I love what Universal's been doing with the Lagoon the past couple of years for entertainment with these nighttime spectaculars, Cinematic Celebration and Marathon of Mayhem, which is what they do for Horror Nights. Still, just amazing. If this comes out before the end of the month, which it should, definitely try to get out there to experience it. And Jonathan, I hope one day you do one of these events. If you change your mind, before the end of October, I will move all my plans around so you can experience this, because this is a great year to go. You got all the icons, you got some deep lore, you just got some really fun houses like in Beetlejuice and Wicked Growth, All Hail the Pumpkin Lord, and my favorite house of all time, Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives. It's just an amazing event. And I'm so glad they're able to do it this year, even with the vinyl coverings over the boo holes, most of the boo holes. And I made a lot of great memories, so I'm glad they were able to do it. Well, that's all we had planned. Jonathan, do you have any last things you want to bring up? Anything that's scratching your itch?
I think I think we covered a lot in 2 hours for how long we were gone. I think we covered a lot of ground, and we obviously have deeper dives on things like Velocicoaster and Horror Nights coming up in the future. But yeah, I think this was a really great dive back into the show, and thank you all for joining us and for listening.
Yes, for sure. I don't think every episode is going to have such a long news segment. I don't think we'll be talking about the news, but this is a fun way to shoot the shoot again and talk about things that we wanted to talk about 2 years ago.
Bring it back into the world.
Yeah, so this has been a lot of fun, and can't wait to see where this journey takes us and all that jazz. So thank you, Balthazar Banshee. I don't know if you're still around, but we did appreciate your insights long ago, earlier in this episode. Great script work. Solid stuff there, bud. But don't tell him I said that, because he's not going to listen back.
I won't. I refuse to give him a compliment.
Yeah. Anywho, Jonathan, where can the people follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Wesley As You Wish. My theme park hot takes come few and far between. And also, of course, follow us on Theme Park Workshop at Workshop TP on Twitter, at Theme Park Workshop on Instagram, and of course our YouTube, youtube.com/Theme Park Workshop.
Yes, follow us on the YouTubes. We're on Spotify. This podcast is on Spotify, and as it adds to more places over time, we'll let you know where those are, and Jonathan will too. We will let you know together. It's a group effort.
Yes.
You can follow me at AdamJ_film on Twitter and Letterboxd if you like movies. And that is it. This has been episode 2 of Theme Park Workshop, the podcast. This episode has been edited and produced by Adam Johnson. We would also like to thank our patrons, Landon Kanoki and Chandler DeRoche, for their continued support. Until next time, thank you for listening.